And that's where actually this project, Natural Intelligence,
Sì, quello di qua. Questi due sono spenti.
help each other in doing robots for that will move in natural environment. Here you can see a sample of the tech we will develop that is a result of a project, things of the running uptick investigator, in which I and some other components of the consortium are being involved. This is one of the very first example of robots that really can walk and move in. On the implementation of the project is consisting in 8 work packages. One is devoted, of course, to the management of the all activities. Then we have 3 work packages devoted to the development of the mind of the robots, 1 to the body of the robots, 1 crucial that will look at the standardization and benchmarking activities that we will carry out during the natural intelligence project. This project will impact at different level the research and scientific community and also the market. So we will strengthen the EU excellence in robotic science and technology. We will lowering the barriers in the deployment of robotic-based solution. We will widen the use of robotics in promising application areas such as search and rescue, agri-food, and of course inspection and maintenance. A lot of technology we will develop in this project will be used in these areas, and we will open new markets for robotics, such as robotic monitoring of natural habitats. The team of the NI consortium is spread over 5 countries in Europe. And here we are seeing the partner, University of Pisa, Imperial College, ETH Zurich, Kingston, CSIC from Spain, University of Delft, Italian Institute for Research and Preservation of Environment, and a small medium enterprise, QB Robotics. The team is complemented by 4 third parties that are bringing in the consortium the botany experience. Let me conclude this talk with a couple of upcoming events. So the project will be presented at IMBOT 2021 in the second half of May. And also, we just yesterday got the news, the project will be also presented at IROS 2021. We organized a workshop there, robotic environmental monitoring, challenges, opportunities, and advancements. The conference that will be held 27 September and 1st October 2021 in Prague, but of course, given the situation, will go online. All right, so I'll just conclude the talk by let you know that we have a working website. I'm sorry. nih2020.eu. So please go over and join our community. We would like to create a community around this project because we really believe these activities will be successfully, if and only if they will be embraced by the whole research community, and even more than just the robotic research community. All right, so this concludes my talk. So thank you very much thank you all very much for being here, and let me just go back to the Teams room. All right, so if there are questions, I'll be happy to take them, and if not, I will just give the word to the next speaker of this kickoff, that is Professor Trishanta Nanayakara by Imperial College London. So,
thank you, Manolo. Let me share the screen. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Oops. Sorry. So thank you very much, Manolo, for this opportunity to talk. I'll be talking about the interesting paradigm of passive dynamics and computation. So when you talk about computation, so it is shared between the brain and the body. And on one hand, one extreme is like complete bodily computation. For example, in your ear, we have this catchment area and then the funnel, and then it just takes time series data, pressure waves, and converts them to frequency domain information in the cochlea. So it is a tapered tube, and then when you vibrate a tapered tube with liquid, low frequency and high frequency signals get separated along that tube, and then the cochlear hair pick up these frequency components and then inform the brain in frequency domain. So it is a real-time map from time domain information to frequency domain information. So that then the brain finds it easier to compute things or feature extraction of audition in the frequency domain. So if the brain were to ask to do this whole process of computation, then you will be hearing with the lag. So this real-time embedding is done by complete embodied computation. So the next level of computing is happening by the brain getting the body to condition itself to a particular shape or a stiffness distribution to reduce the entropy of the environment. For example, if you're riding a bicycle on a bumpy terrain, so the brain doesn't need to know about the the roughness of the terrain to ride the bicycle. So the brain wants to really focus on the task of riding the bicycle. So then what it does is it asks you to come off the seat and then ride the bicycle with bent knees. And then by bent knees, it is kind of implementing a low pass filter in that. So the knees then take care of disturbance rejection, and then the brain can really focus on low entropy information about the world and then focus on riding the bicycle. And then on the other hand, so the long term, let's say in the cerebellum or in the cortical networks, the brain can model the dynamics of the environment and the body so that it can do model-based predictive control. So any kind of problem solving is in this spectrum. So either purely in the brain or purely in the body and in between. So this is interesting, and then most of our contributions in the natural intelligence consortium will be in this paradigm. So if I just kind of simplify it in a map, so the environment is the source of energy, and then it also presents the agent with uncertain states, right? So different degrees of uncertainty. And then on the agent side, it has structures that are of different plasticity. Brain is of the highest plasticity with synaptic junctions that can change in microseconds, and then muscles and then bones, right? So the bones evolve over millions of years and across generations to different cam shapes, and that solves different. For example, the cochlear tube I said. So that tube's shape and the viscosity has a long evolution. It cannot be changed like from microsecond to microsecond, but the brain can. So what we see is that in the energy uncertainty landscape, so the brain deals with brain is a medium energy consuming computational device, and then it doesn't it tries to model things that are really low entropy, right? So it is predictable. If it is very uncertain and very noisy, what it does is it asks the muscles, it conditions the muscles, for example, riding the bicycle in that bumpy terrain. So it kind of delegates it to muscles and co-contract the muscles, and then it deals with the environment that way. So it doesn't directly get involved, it indirectly works through the muscles by co-contraction control. But it pays a heavy price, right? So if you co-contract the muscles, you have to spend a lot of energy on that. But it can deal with a very uncertain environment. So the muscles can, in the long run, communicate these intentions to bone level stressors, and then those stressors can if the statistics have some kind of a baseline pattern, then they can get into long-term evolution. So these CAM profiles and then the muscle arrangements is very efficient, very efficient. But it doesn't deal with very uncertain things, like, so they are pretty predictable, low entropy information they are encoding at skeletal level. One example is this George Lodes' work at Harvard, and so he looked at a dead fish, for example, in a fish tank. And then if you open a water stream against the dead body, the dead fish starts to swim against the water stream, right? So it is like if you put a ribbon on that stream, it will just flow down. If you put a stick on that stream, it will also flow down. But the fish body, even if it is dead, it can move forward. So what happens is the body's stiffness distribution and then the shape of the body and from the face to tail have the right morphology, the physical shape and the physical stiffness distribution, so that it can harness energy from the vortexes that are created by the turbulence itself. So there's no strict separation between the body and the environment. So the body and the environment come into a kind of a harmonic oscillation, and then there is energy absorption from the environment to the body, and then they accomplish something very useful. So I call this phenomenon a ghost circuit because the part of the circuit is in the turbulent water, and then the other part of the circuit is in the body. And then when they come together in the right dynamics, or let's say physical parameters, vortex parameters, and hydrodynamic parameters, and the bodily stiffness and shape parameters, they make up a single circuit that works together to solve a single problem, a problem. And then throughout evolution, it may be a perfection of this unification of this circuit or emergence of this circuit. If the fish were to be alive, maybe the brain has a function of conditioning the body's stiffness distribution by muscle core contraction and relaxation to suit the turbulent dynamic properties in the environment, so that the fish can swim very efficiently in different types of turbulent environments. So this phenomenon is really interesting. So this is happening across the board. So if you go to a general practitioner, for example, so the GP would examine your abdomen to understand the internal organ conditions, right? So now the question is, they want to feel something in the body, but why do they take a lot of different actions, right? So the fingers, they condition the fingers, the shape, the stiffness, and then the behaviors, right? So the reason is the sensors and actuators cannot be separated. So the position and velocity sensor is part of the muscle, and then the force sensor, which is in the tendons, is part of the muscle. And then by conditioning the muscles, you can condition the entropy of the sensor information. So if you can start with the high entropy signal, by conditioning, you can make it a low entropy signal. So if you say there's a probability distribution of the state T given a set of bodily parameters, zeta 0, which is, let's say, the shape and the stiffness of the fingers, and phi 0, which is a behavior of palpation. And then if they can move to some optimal behavior phi, let's say, and then zeta, from zeta 0 to zeta, which is another configuration of the shape of the fingers and stiffness of the fingers. So, and that conditional probability distribution is sharper than this. So, dotted thing goes to light blue, then we call it information gain, right? So information transfer entropy reduction. So it seems that the brain tries to do this all the time to gain information so that it can solve the problem in a low entropy domain. It doesn't solve the problem in a high entropy domain, right? So we tested that with robotic counterparts, like so that we make a finger that can control the stiffness itself, and then search for a buried nodule in a soft tissue. And then we did modeling, and then we saw that so it can, just by controlling the stiffness of the finger, the tendon perception can be controlled, and it can, for example, let's say, just by controlling the stiffness, the likelihood function of perception can be controlled, so that it doesn't matter what the prior distribution is. If you have a conditionable likelihood function, you can converge to a low entropy posterior very quickly. So what we saw was that within just 4 iterations, it can converge to the true information of the nodule buried inside. So that is a little bit of background, and then I come to what we plan to do on the Natural Intelligence Consortium. So this the same thing is happening in different species, right? So the mountain goat is my favorite example. So if you see this mountain goat climbing a cliff, the high entropy information about the environment, like the slippage and things like that, if they get to the brain, and then you really depend on the brain to control that, it is too late to take action, because it takes about 120 or 100 milliseconds to reach the cortex and then any computation in the cortex is about 50 milliseconds, and then descending commands to the muscles takes another about 150 milliseconds. It is not enough to survive on that cliff. So what we suspected was that the computing might be happening in the hoof itself. So we suspected that the hoof has a mechanical computer, just like the cochlea in the hair, in our ear. So the vibration dynamics in the hoof itself is doing a braking effect, just like the ABS system in our automobiles. But ABS is an active controller, but here it has a perfectly passive thing. So there's no single sensor here involved, no actuators involved, just the springs. The only trick is to have these springs in the right stiffness combination. And then you will see that we saw that about 300% increase in slip reduction just by having the right stiffness combinations across different ligaments. So we published in IEEE Transaction Robotics and IROS. You can see detailed. So if you look at hoofed animals and their habitats, you can see, like, the climbing ability, the horse, the pigs, and then the goats. So their foot width is roughly, very small. And then other, like camel, giraffe, they have wide hoof. So we cannot really separate the hoof morphology and the terrain conditions, right? So that is what is really important. So the computation and problem solving happens as a combination or interplay between the environment and the body, and then they have to really match each other. So that's the important message here. So Sarah, she graduated, so she did her PhD on the morphology of the hoof, and then she took a robotics approach. And then we looked at mountain goats and then mountain goat hoof morphology, and then we made robotic hoofs and tested this hypothesis, because it's very difficult to test a hypothesis in the original biological counterpart, and then we can test it in a laboratory because we know exactly what we controlled. We know the stiffnesses of these springs, and we know exactly how to measure energy. And then we modeled, and then using simulations, we predicted what might happen, and then compared that with experiments. But so far, what we did was our whole modeling was single point contact, right? So in the Natural Intelligence Consortium, this project, I want to extend it to multi-point contact models, and then we just used a Luger friction model, and I want to explore more about other friction models that can explain plastic terrain conditions. So what is important is, like, if you have the hoof with the right stiffness, it can increase the slip resistance significantly compared to a rounded hoof, right? Rounded, just a simple leg. So the contact type is super important, right? So this like the leg just before touching and touch down, and then see passively adapting it to embrace the real terrain conditions, so that this compliance is super important in that sense. So this is the final finding. So we did very detailed experiments with energy measurements, and we measured the stick and slip behaviors, and we concluded that if you have the right compliance levels in the roll, yaw, and pitch, for example, gamma, if you have to have a very compliant gamma, which is digits should be able to open up, and then theta, you have to have a stiff theta, which is saying there's a very strong interdigital ligament, and then beta is the up and down behavior, which has to be compliant. So this is the most highest energy consuming. So meaning you need a lot of energy to push that hoof if you have the right compliance combinations in the hoof. And then we saw another interesting thing. So the hoof is not equally capable of slip reduction in all directions. So the direction, it depends on the direction, right? So another interesting thing we noticed was that when it is strong in one direction, the vibration dynamics are high frequency vibrations, and it doesn't inform the brain, right? But if the hoof is weak in one direction, if there's a slippage in that direction, the vibration dynamics tend to be very low frequency vibrations. So it alerts the brain, right? So if you see a very high pitch or hear a high pitch sound, the brain ignores it. But if you hear a low pitch sound like intermittent sound, the brain gets alerted, right? So the hoof has a passive mechanism to alert the brain if the hoof cannot handle that problem, and through just vibration dynamics, vibration frequency control. So, like, though they are coming from two different angles, like they converge to a same problem. So, if you have seen people how they break on ice skaters, so they implement a hoof, mountain goat hoof, using their knee joint and the ankle joint. It is exactly what the mountain goat hoof is doing. So, the human body, because we don't have hoofs, we can implement a hoof using our two legs, the hip joint, the knee joint, and the ankle joint, right? So they can even break on ice. So that is like, I mean, the similarities between these two convergence, passive dynamic convergence, is very interesting. Uh, yeah, and then I want to talk a little bit about Elam's work. Elam Hamid is a PhD student. She's just about to graduate. She did some wonderful work on the knee joint. So she noticed that so our knee joint has an angle-dependent damping profile, right? So the viscosity has a angle-dependent function, and then that way the brain can use this function to move a low-pass filter, the cutoff frequency of a low-pass filter, just by controlling the angle of the damping profile. So she noticed that it is much more than that. By torque, the collision forces can be minimized due to this shape of the function. So she did a robotic experiment, a knee motor, and then controlled the impedance of that motor, the backdrivable motor, to the shape of that. So using a hyperbolic damping function, and then she took another motor to simulate the terrain, and then hit the second motor with impulsive forces, and then she showed that by having the hyperbolic damping function, the collision forces themselves can be minimized. So the significance of this is that when you walk, if your knee joint has this angle-dependent cam profile, the damping profile, the vibration dynamics are minimized, and it doesn't. The vibrations don't propagate through the structure of your body, and then that simplifies stabilizing the problem of the body. And then it's a smooth walk, but the collisions are minimized. Like if you walk without that damping profile in the knee, you will experience high collision forces. So this is interesting and important. Maybe we will extend this in the natural intelligence study. So our team is Shehara. He will join as a PhD student and a research assistant, and Said Bonasi, he will as a postdoc. And then my colleague, Mastak Lijari, is a co-investigator and a senior lecturer in design engineering, and he will contribute from finite element simulations. And I will deliver a WP2, so we will talk about it tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Trish. Very, very interesting and inspiring talks. If there are questions, I think we have some minutes for a couple of questions.
Marco has a question, I think.
Thanks a lot for the intro to your work. Did you have this goat foot already attached to a robot at some point, or was this on a test bench so far?
Not yet. So we took a XY table and then put a vertical force on the platform and then tried to push it against a known platform. So now, in the exciting thing about the natural intelligence thing is that we can get it out of the lab and then try it outside to see if it can survive.
Good. Thanks.
All right. So if there are no other questions, I think we can go ahead with the next speaker, Professor Marco Hutter from ETH Polytechnic of Zurich.
All right. Can you see my screen?
So,
can you all see my screen?
no.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can. Yeah.
All right. So quick introduction from my side about ETH Zurich. So before doing that, a big thank you to Manolo for making all of this happening. I think it's a great team and a great project that we are tackling here. From our side, there's like these main people that are involved. So Henrik Kolmdach is postdoc in my group and a specialist for terrain classification. Then we have Lorenz Wellhausen, already senior PhD student working on navigation and path planning, myself, and then of course quadrupedal systems. These ones still having stupid feet, but hopefully by the end of the project, that's going to be a lot more intelligent. It's not only the participant. I think that is important also to know for this consortium. There's a big team behind that, which has extensive knowledge from designing of robotic systems over control and autonomy to field deployment of them. So we're participating in many different field relevant or application relevant scenarios, and all these people are involved in that. Before diving into the specifics that are relevant for NI, a very brief overview about the research in general that we are tackling in our group. As I mentioned, focus is on locomotion and manipulation, and in particular in uncertain and unstructured environments. So we're designing new actuators and robots. We're working a lot on model-based planning and control for these hybrid systems, so systems that are in contact with the environment partially. Working a lot in reinforcement learning, then multimodal perception, including also haptic interaction with the environment for classification and traversability estimation in order to make the systems being able to navigate in unstructured environment, and work on state estimation, model estimation, which is not so relevant for this European project, and then on haptic interaction and operation. So you see here a bunch of platforms that most of them developed from scratch in our group. This is legged robots, mobile manipulator systems, but also large-scale construction machines that we're using for construction automations and things like that. Now, the most relevant for NI is animal, and I want to briefly dive into this, just a few minutes. So this research that has, in the meanwhile, more than 10 years of a history, so something that we started at the research lab, developing first prototypes that could walk under laboratory conditions over research machines that we use for field deployments, to today field-ready quadrupeds that are commercialized through our spin-off Anybotics. There's more than 50 people in the meanwhile distributing them primarily for industrial applications, but then also through partners like us, partners like you, partners like PISA, for new applications like natural inspections and things like that. I would like to give you here a very specific or a very special introduction to all of that, which is a little more in the spirit of what NI is. I hope you can all hear the sound playing now from the video.
The animal. To the untrained eye, it may look like a robot, and that's because it is. But it's no ordinary robot, it's an animal.
Oops.
This animal has just enjoyed an underwater excursion because it can. The animal is the only robot of its species to be completely waterproof. For robots in Switzerland, it's regeneration season. Animals use 3D lasers to scan its environment for the perfect place to rest. Most species hibernate for the entire season. Animals complete their battery cycle in only 3 hours. Now that our animal has had its power nap, it's ready to go back to doing whatever its programmer tells it to. Comfortable in any habitat, the animal can go anywhere. Anybody.
Okay, so this gives you a little bit of an impression of In the Spirit of NI. Brief introduction, because this platform might be used by several team members here in the context of NI, what the platform is about. So what it has is LiDAR sensors on top that we can 3D perceive the environment. Then we have 4 wide-angle cameras, 4 stereo cameras around to do terrain mapping. We have wide-angle cameras in the front and in the back in order to see what's going on in RGB image. Then for outdoor missions, also probably useful in NI, RTK, GPS. And last but not least, we can mount a pan-tilt inspection head where we have optical zoom, thermal cameras, and light on it, which might be useful for some parts. Now we're using the platform in various different projects and applications. One side most relevant here is for flora monitoring in this natural intelligence EU project, but we also have collaborations with the Swiss Federal Institute for Flora, Snow and Landscape, where we do forestry mapping. As Manolo pointed out, we're using these machines on the ground for sewer and mine inspection. We're participating in a DARPA SAPTI challenge, where there's this robot is used to fully autonomously explore underground areas, search and rescue application, industrial maintenance works, and also some space applications. These following videos shall give you a little bit of insight in how all of that looks like. So we have on the top left video, we see how the robot fully autonomously explores a nuclear power plant in the US. And you can also see what the robot sees while going there around, how it maps the environment, how it can plan navigation path, how it perceived the underground and uses that for foothold planning. Then we have on the top right, we have a first project where we really used haptic information. So we use feet that are sensorized in order to classify the terrain. So these are primarily vibration measurements and force measurements that we use in order to identify the level of vibration and the level of deterioration that we have on the ground. And on the bottom 2 videos, these are classical industrial applications from industry inspection surveying over construction monitoring and things like that. Now, the technology behind that, you're going to see more details tomorrow when we're looking at the different work packages. Just briefly, what we are working on. First aspect which is relevant for NI is reinforcement learning for locomotion control, where we essentially start in simulation to train complex locomotion behaviors to overcome all kinds of different grounds, and then generalize this in order to be able to walk over natural grounds. So you see here a number of different deployments where we also took the robot on a hike to the mountain, where we deployed it going through riverbeds, in forests and stuff like that. And this is the type of locomotion you want to see also in NI, that we have capable ground robots that can literally go where humans can go today in order to sample the environment. Now, in all of that, important to understand is that this is all human operated, in the sense that there is a person who has an understanding of how the environment look like and where the robot might be able to walk through and where not, and guides in the robot with joysticks. Of course, we want to automate this. So the second part of our contribution will primarily focus on local navigation planning. So given a perception of the environment and certain footholds, how can then the robot go from A to B and plan that locally? All of this, what you see here, is purely geometry based at the moment. But of course, if you go to a natural environment where you have bushes and grass and vegetation, it's getting a lot more tricky. You have to better understand the environment and use that in your navigation planning. And then a third element, this is like high-level autonomy, where it's about like exploration of larger space areas. What you see here is the robot going into the reactor building of SATSOP in the US. So this is a couple of 100 meters of distances that these robots can autonomously traverse, map the environment, and come back with a very detailed map of how the situation looks like. And then the last aspect which we're contributing here is how can we make systems that even if they fall at some point are able to get up and continue to operate again. Also, this demonstration that we did here initially was only done in lab environments, but of course we want to bring this to like most generic environments, that we have systems that can just continue to operate no matter what happens. And this brings me to the last one. So our main involvement is in work package 4 on high-level autonomy for unpredictable environments. I want to see all of these skills that I just showed you before in environments as we depicted here. With this, I'm closing and I'm taking questions. Thanks a lot.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. Where is the camera? Can you show us where the camera is? I mean, we can discuss this tomorrow in detail, but
I can quickly show you this. Give me a second.
sorry, this is Paolo from Kingston University.
So you can see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Come on. Let me get the laser, 1 second. Okay. Somehow it doesn't work. Anyway, so you see here in the front, there is wide angle cameras.
Okay. What resolution is that? What's the resolution of the camera?
I think this is full HD camera, front and back, wide angle. I can't give you the exact angle of it, but it's pretty wide angle.
Could we mount something at the bottom? So on the, let's call it the stomach of the tummy of the...
We could also put something here. Then there is the RealSense cameras here around, which have about 45-degree inclination to the ground. There you also have RGB and IR cameras. But essentially, you could equip whatever you want. So we can put any payload on top, cameras pointing in any direction, and there is like interfaces here at the hatch, either Ethernet, USB, or whatever you want in order to connect this to the onboard system.
Okay, we can discuss that tomorrow because this is part of WP5 anyway, so it's okay. Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
Marco, I have a question.
Go, Diego. Go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Impressive things. I am really looking forward to see it in action. And to what extent is this teleoperated? So what's really is able to do alone, and what does it really need to be instructed to? Huh?
So in the example that I showed with the DARPA SAPTI challenge, where we are in this building type of environments or in mines or in sewers, there we can essentially let the robot autonomously explore. So what it does, it creates a map of the environment and tries to make as much of volumetric gain as possible to explore the complete environment and come back with a detailed map. For this, we don't necessarily need to have a human in the loop. Now, if we look at the outdoor missions we were doing so far with these hikes, what we are doing there predominantly was that there's a human operator who gives directional commands. So let's say go straight, go left, go right, whatever. That could also be GPS waypoint coordinates that you give the robot already today. And then in the close proximity of the machine, the decision like how to get around obstacles, what kind of terrain is possible to traverse, this can be taken by the robot itself. What is missing, and that's something that you want to develop within NI, is like the decision of, for arbitrary terrains, like if you have tall bushes, high grass, stones, obstacles that if you just look at the pure geometry, at the elevation map or LiDAR map, it looks like you cannot walk there, whether or not you can still traverse that and follow the mission that was pre-programmed.
Thank you.
All right, great talk, Marco. Thank you. Thank you. A great talk as usual, actually. Thank you very much. And all right, so I think we can proceed with the next speaker here. So now we have Professor Paolo Remagnino from University of Kingston, UK.
Okay, so shall I start?
You can go over.
Okay. So I prepare completely different. Yeah, I prepare completely different talks. So technical details will come tomorrow, I suppose. So my talk was basic. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Can you all see this? Okay. So essentially today I'm going to introduce the our background, what we do, and a little bit of Kingston University, and then in the last half an hour, minutes to add three slides that essentially preempts the conversation we're going to have tomorrow. So this talk is delivered by me, but I believe available online is also our researcher, h2020, who is going to join us, COVID permitting, in August, September. So it's going to be with us and it's going to help me with a project. So just a very quick one on Kingston University. So it's situated in the south of London. We have a large number of students. We have 4 different campuses scattered just around Kingston upon Thames, 4 faculty, and almost 2,000 members of staff. And these are the sites at Kingston University. We actually at the top left one, so Penryn Road. I hope you're going to join us soon because we have a brand new building here, which is the landmark basically of Kingston, at Kingston University. So we are next to Hampton Court Park, so across the River Thames. And just very quickly about me. So I am an electronic engineer, graduated from the University of Genoa ages ago. I'm not going to tell you when. Turned into a computer scientist. So I did my PhD at the University of Surrey. Then I worked at INRIA, University of Reading. And then I did a number of sabbaticals in Japan and in INRIA in France. Roughly 10 years ago, I founded the RoboVision, what I call the RoboVision team, which at the beginning was a multidisciplinary research team turned into a video, image and video analytics expert team, specializing essentially in artificial intelligence, machine learning, pattern recognition techniques. The idea is basically, and our goal is basically always to develop distributed intelligent algorithms for the automatic understanding of big data, so large corporal data, usually accrued by an array of distributed sensors. In natural intelligence, we will not have a distributed array of sensors. It will be packed on the robot, but the concepts are very, very similar. So this is the expertise which I just mentioned. The additional thing is that we played also with other sensors, not only with cameras. We also play with cameras in the visual spectrum, in the infrared spectrum. And our applications are very, very different from yours, or those I've just heard talking about. So we come basically from the physical security community. So video, what usually goes under the name of video surveillance or visual surveillance, as I call it in Europe. We also worked on assisted technologies. So we worked on ambient assisted living. And personally speaking, I'm an associate researcher, visiting researcher at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. And I developed some methods of plant identification, which I call computational botany. So essentially applying artificial intelligence methods and deep learning, machine learning to the recognition and identification of natural objects or plants. We've been financially supported by UK, EU, and US funding bodies. As I said before, very different from your application domains. Our aim has always been the development of intelligent algorithms, making devices, especially cameras and sensors, smart for the automatic interpretation and real-time interpretation of complex scenes. These are just examples of projects. I've got at the moment a project funded by the National Aerospace Technology Exploitation Program on robot arm technologies to develop a robot arm that has a video basically at the end effector in order to be able to perform some precision tasks. I've worked and I've been funded for smart farming, which is somehow related to natural intelligence. That was under the 5G rural integrated program funded by Innovate UK. And we also had a project some time ago, 3 years ago, on embedded deep learning. And this is going to be very interesting for natural intelligence because we will have to embed deep learning, machine learning techniques on the processors that are going to be sitting on the robot. So you guys are going to tell me tomorrow more about that. And we'll have to have a long discussion about that. Talking about the work I did with the Royal Botanic Gardens, so it's funded by the Living Human Trust, which is, and the EPSSC, which are two UK funded bodies. And in terms of other research that I've done on deep learning, very, very similar to the identification of plants, is the detection of oral cancer. Very, very similar techniques. So we will be able to port some of the knowledge and expertise that we developed during the last 5 years or so. EU-funded projects, we had a couple of NATO projects on physical security. We worked also on in h2020 on a project called Monica, where we developed physical security solutions. Again, for Monica, we used deep learning. So we have plenty of expertise on that. Earlier on FP7, we worked again on multi-sensor fusion. And as I said at the beginning, we worked on assisted living. So I had a couple of European projects on that. And we were also funded by the Department of Homeland Security in the US in a collaboration with the University of Nevada, Reno. That's, I would say, 10 years ago, so it's a decade ago. Over the years, I had a number of researchers. Effectively, we are starting out the fourth generation of researchers. Those are grouped at the top. The different groupings indicate the different generations of researchers that I had, and they helped me with the success of ROVIT, our research group. At bottom left are collaborators, all collaborators and current collaborators. Bottom right are my strong links, strong ties with Japan, and where I spent a couple of sabbaticals, and Southeast Asia, with which I have a very strong ties, especially in the Institute of Infocom Research and Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. I want to have just a single slide on Hajar Sadeghi Soke, who left us in July 2020. Unfortunately, she passed away too young. These are some pictures of her in the lab, and plenaries of Monica, and during our meetings when she was still smiling. As I mentioned at the beginning, working directly on the project will be Hui Xuan, that has a degree is a very young researcher, degree in control engineering and automation from the Hanoi University of Science and Technologies in Vietnam. He has expertise in computer vision and machine learning, and he has previous experience in projects with the MICA, the Multimedia Information Communication Application Center at the same university. He also worked for, he did a stint with Samsung Display in Vietnam, and he also worked with the Institute of Gastrointestinal and Hepatology in Hanoi. And all these techniques developed for cancer research can be applied for plant identification, as you probably understand as soon as we start working on real data. These are the slides that I added because I wasn't expecting to be a technical talk today. So we are going to, as Kingston University at ROVE, we're going to develop video analytics or video analysis or image and video analysis in the wild. So this is the term that we use in computer vision or machine vision. So we moved in the last, since deep learning started, basically, I would say terraforming the computer vision research field, and basically destroying all the successes of the previous classic computer vision. Computer vision and machine vision used to use precompiled models, so things like recognizing an object, recognizing a car, a vehicle, which is something we did a long time ago, or recognizing a person in a shopping mall, being able to track the person. So there were basically precompiled models to be able to do that. Nowadays, this is no longer done, and also you don't publish anymore if you don't use deep learning. In deep learning, basically you use real data to be able to acquire information and knowledge about a scene, images, an object, people, and their dynamics. Okay, deep learning works because basically it's more robust. It works continuously, so it can work real time, and it works with a number of environmental conditions. So, for instance, changes in illumination, weather conditions, and so on and so forth. There are still many, many problems with deep learning, especially I can mention just one, which is the crucial one, that people usually compare the results on a very limited number of data sets. I've already discussed with Claudia and Sienna some details on the data collection. The biggest problem is that comparing your methods in deep learning or machine learning, machine vision on a limited number of data sets means that you have a limited testing. And this is what we're going to change, basically, the natural intelligence. We're going to move towards the wild, and we're going to use new data sets and hopefully many data sets. So we're going to use the machine learning way, as I call it here, that provides a solution that hopefully is going to overcome some of the problems. It doesn't rely on precompiled models. Models can be trained with different environmental conditions. Incidentally, we're going to use deep learning not only with images and videos, but we're going to use all the other sensors. So we're going to try to do something that in computer vision is done, for instance, together with audio. Okay, so here we're going to use many other sensor, a lot of other sensor information. So for instance, temperature, illumination, humidity, GPS information as well, so that I can geolocate our findings and being able to tag them correctly. The only thing is that I preempt, this is something I have to say now and I'll probably have to repeat tomorrow. We will have to use the labeling of data because deep learning relies on metadata, which is associated. Essentially, it's got some kind of partial supervision of the data, which is used to train all the models. So we will have to ask all the plant scientists or botanists to help us labeling all the data. The other thing we're going to try to do is, apart from helping with the selection of additional sensors, I noticed that some of them are already in place. We might need other sensors, so for instance, better camera sensors. We will also try to use the so-called generative methods. So methods that allow the creation, extrapolation, interpolation of data to create some new data that is realistic. And that, again, will entail a very tight and strong collaboration, a frequent collaboration with the plant scientists. So more tomorrow. I'll try to add a little bit more tomorrow on the technical aspects. I think I finished, Manolo.
Thank you very much, Paolo, for your talk. If there are any questions, we have a couple of minutes for taking a couple of questions for Paolo. Right. We can then proceed with the next speaker, that is Professor Diego Torricelli from C6 Spain. So Diego, if you want, you can take over. Right.
Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so very nice. Very happy to be here in this brand new project, which falls a bit outside from our main research lines of our group, but well intersect with this last benchmarking efforts we have done during the last years. I will introduce a bit the group. So we are in an institute which is one of the comes from the founder of modern neuroscience, which is Santiago Ramón y Cajal. We are in Madrid, and our institute is basically 95% neurobiologists, and we are called the robotics guys because we are the only engineers in that institute. As you can see, the institute has 3 departments, and one of these is called the Department of Translational Neuroscience, which main goals is to transfer the methods and the evidence from neuroscience and try to translate it into patients and into new kind of therapeutic interventions. And in our group, we are part of this department. We are the neuro rehabilitation group, whose main goal is to develop machines to do better therapy, to better understand and better intervene on subjects. We are 4 PIs, you can see on the right, and this picture is always going to change over time because there are a lot of students that are turning. And I tried to simplify the research line. Because we are going in many directions, but I can say that we are focused on these 4 aspects. The first is the interaction between human and robots. We are developing basically exoskeleton, also other kind of machines like electrical stimulator for muscles and affer pathways. But basically, what we would like to improve the interaction between the human and the robot to make the machine more transparent, more intuitive. And on the right, you can see the bunch of projects. These are all European projects that have been in the last, let's say, 5 years. Some of them are running so far. Then there is the second part is benchmarking, which is actually the line which I'm personally leading in this group, which is the benchmarking of exoskeleton, wearable robots in general, and also humanoid locomotion. Actually, this benchmarking effort started from a H2R project, which is this one, which was like a human-like bipedal robot. And now with Eurobench, I will talk in the next slides. A third line is the analysis of muscle coordination, restoration of muscle coordination. This actually very well linked with all the aspect of that has been talked by the Imperial College colleague about passive dynamics or the role of muscles and all these stiffness modulation in human joints. And also, of course, we would like to restore this muscle coordination in impaired individuals. And the first line is we are developing neural interfaces, so implanted interfaces to better manage tremor in people with essential tremor, Parkinson's disease, but also to better, so we close the loop because we like to better also realize better interaction with robots. So using implanted interfaces to have this more efficient and more effective communication with an external machine. On the left side, you can see we are also coordinating the project InBots that has been also mentioned by Manolo, which actually cover all the aspects related to robotics, collaborative robots. So not only technical aspect, but also not technical aspect. We are organizing a conference actually this month. So if you don't know the conference is free, so you can participate. It's a virtual, of course. And also NI will be also presented there. So in this talk, I would like to focus mostly on the second line because it's the one that is mostly related to this and the reason why we are in this consortium. So I would like to start by taking some definitions and taxonomies taken from the multi-annual roadmap in robotics that you all well know. So you can, if you consider the technologies that compose a robotic system, you can classify these technologies into these 6 areas. And if you also focus on the application domains, you can also have a bunch of possible application domains divided into these 7. This is what this multi-annual roadmap in robotics is proposing. So what really does Benchmark want to do? Is to answer this question, whether the robots are useful or not to people in these application domains. This is not a new question. Actually, there have been and there are still ongoing several competition approach that are trying to provide an answer to this. No? The drawback of this, there are a lot of course, advantages of having competition, but also some drawbacks, because they are mostly trying to answer if or not a robot can reach a determined goal, but not how the goal is achieved. So trying to explain a bit better this concept, if you consider, okay, that this is famous video of the failures of some of the bipedal robots during the Upper Robotics Challenge. So we have been a lot of failures, of course, also successful robots. So we like to try to provide the engineer, but also the end user, to a quantitative answer to what's really wrong, no, in that situation, why that failure happened. And we would like also to use also a already existing taxonomy from multi-annual roadmap which is the one on system abilities. I'm sure most of you already knew, because when you want to have to write a proposal on this, you have to, let's say, claim that you are going to improve a kind of one or more of the system abilities. We found this really attractive because the system abilities is a middle layer between the technology and the application domains. And this may help developers in establishing some, actually two main cause-effect relationship. The first one is what happens if I change the technology in my system? Actually, the behavior of my system, how is this affected by this change? And if you can establish which is the relation between an improvement of one of the systems, for example, the perception ability, how this affect one or more of the system abilities. Quantifying this would be, I think, useful for the developer. And the other one is, if I want to improve the performance of my system into an application domain, which of the system abilities is the most sensitive to this improvement? If I detect that there is one whose improvement will provide the best chances to improve the final performance, I may focus mostly on that. So in establishing these two cause-effect relationship, it will help a lot to define a path from what I have in the lab and to what I will have in the market. So from these ideas, the Eurobench project will started. Basically, if I want to condense this into one question, is we have the system ability, but are we able to quantify each of these system ability? So the project Eurobench tried to, or is trying, because it's still an active project, to answer this question in one specific field, which is the field of bipedal locomotion, which includes prosthesis technology, power prosthesis technology, bipedal humanoids, and exoskeleton. And we would like to address the same question in NI, but focusing on a slightly different, not so different technology, which is quadrupedal locomotion, which is sufficiently close to bipedal because it's a legged locomotion system, moving in a similar environment, but with, let's say, obvious differences. So the field of benchmarking is not new. It's well known, for example, in computer vision, and also in many technologies that are in the market, in which you use a standard or port of reference and use this to compare your system with or assess the system. So the main focus is would like to highlight is that assessing is really important. Someone before also stressed this point. It's not only developing, but also assessing is of utmost importance. Not only to have something that can be measured in an impartial way, but also to let one system really compared with another one in all the different facets of performance, and helping the engineer to identify the critical issue and improve the system in a more efficient way. And of course, also demonstrate to the society or to the funding agency, for example, that your system is at a certain level of readiness. For example, as you can see here, this is a video from Boston Dynamics, which also developed this famous quadrupedal robot. And this is a video where they show how they test this system. So you can see in each of these there is a different scenario. Some of these are really simple ones. Actually, some of them are without anything, so they're measuring probably efficiency. In other, there are slightly more complex scenario, like so for example in stairs, and you will see afterwards also some more critical, like this one scenario, in which there are up and downs, also close to natural environments. So in this way, they can test and their system before introducing the market. So the main concept here is that the benchmarking is a process that is needed in order to test the system before the market introduction. So each of this company, I suppose also antibiotics, has done similar tests. The problem is that there is still not a way to do it in a rigorous and agreed way in the community. And this is what we would like to do. We have a lot of tests that have been done, a lot of demos that are shown, but they are all qualitative. We wanted in the last, say, 5 years, we started to try to propose some methods that are more, let's say, replicable, reproducible, and more quantitative. We published a paper some years ago in which we decompose all this system in the subtasks, and we introduced the concept of the environment, which is actually very important, as also said by someone before me, in which depending on the complexity of the environment, the task will fall in a different level of complexity. This was a collaborative effort between 5 European projects. Then they merge into what is the Eurobench project. In the Eurobench project, what we have done, we have identified 3 main ingredients of benchmarking. And the first is to have test beds, as you have seen, that can replicate the real condition you can find out of the lab. Then you need protocols. You need metrics, you need algorithms to extract and to quantify the performance of and quantify these system abilities from data extracted by experiments on these test beds. And last but not least, the availability of data sets. Only by having a big data set, you can really do comparison and you can really extract evidence or making prediction for systems. And the Eurobench is trying to do this, focusing on this bipedal system, exoskeleton, humanoids, and prostheses. And we are involved in the community. You can see here we have involved 17 different consortia in the development of all these 3 ingredients, and we are now integrating them into one big framework and 2 testing facilities, one in Madrid for wearable robots and one in Genoa for bipedal humanoids. This is a reconstruction of what will be available in 1 month here in Madrid, a place in which we can test all these things. This is a snapshot of the project that contributed to this. So we have 17 different scenarios. And yes, this is a concept that I think it would be of interest for you all. If you imagine the axis of measurability in which we can be defined like obtaining quantitative and objective information on performance, and also the axis of reproducibility, which is allowing 2 different teams in 2 different parts of the world and with 2 slightly different laboratories have results that can be comparable to each other. We have like these 4 areas. So the demos we have seen are falling in this area. The scientific experiments, at least in robotics, should be reproducible, but they are still not reproducible because each developer is proposing metrics that are ad hoc metrics for their experiments, but at least they are quantitative. Competition are reproducible, are done to make systems compared to each other, but most of them are really qualitative, based on yes or no. Some of this competition, like ERL, are introducing some more quantitative metrics. We would like to stay here, to have protocol and experiments which are at the same time quantitative and reproducible. Why is this important? Because from this you can really create standards and help companies really demonstrate in an agreed way that their system is working in that condition, in that scenario. So this is an example of what we have done. We have created this Lego-like irregular terrain testbed in which you can change the configuration of these modules. You can rotate these. There are 3 different inclinations, and you can have a lot of combination of different irregular terrains. And what we have done, we have created already a pre-standard. We have done, I think that we would like also to make in NI, so convert one of these testbed into a real standard. We have done this, and it's out there. And now we're going to present this to ISO, and hopefully we will have a first international standard on irregular terrain. And we would like to start from this in the NI and try to improve this into a better, more, say, natural-like replication of the environment. So this is my last slide. I think one of the most important things is this, in this respect, in benchmarking, is to do everything together with the community. We cannot think of NI as a standalone project. We have to identify the user needs, for which are the system abilities that we would like to test, and which are the natural environment conditions that we would like to reproduce in the lab. And then the methodology, what kind of test beds, what kind of experimental protocols, and what kind of algorithm computation we need to have. And this is our group. I will be coordinating this work package, and David Rodriguez will help me in, it's a postdoc that me hired for this project. And we are focusing on this work package, which is benchmarking and standardization. And these are also other PhD, master, and bachelor students that will stay with us during the entire project. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego, for the talk. If there are any questions, please, we have a couple of minutes to take a couple of questions. And just one thing before your question, Marco. So we have the break now. Let's keep with the second part of this event in 15 minutes. So let's say at 4 p.m. Right, go, Marco.
Thanks, Diego. So my question was related to, at what technology readiness level does it make sense to have this benchmarking? Do you have like a clear segment of where you think that this is important to have, and that could be also standard and across disciplines, that like once you have that level of TRL, it makes a lot of sense that there is across disciplines a standardized test setup or something?
Thank you for the question, Marco. I think this is strongly depends on the type of robot. The problem of these system abilities is they are strongly system specific. If you are talking about motion ability for a quadrupedal robot, could be completely different from motion ability of a wheeled robot, because a wheeled robot probably will never go into certain kind of relevant environment. No, because in TRL we are talking always in this relevant environment. So depending on this, for example, in NI, we have the problem, should we really replicate the real natural environment? This is impossible, no? So we can test the system until a certain kind of environment, and then we have to go out of the lab. So I don't have the answer to this, but there is one concept that I would like to explore in this project is the ability of tests in the lab to predict what is out of the lab. So you may not really test that your system is a TRL 9 because you cannot reproduce a river in the lab, but you can test in the lab, and that test is predicting what the system will do in a river. So I think we cannot, in our project, we cannot go at TRL 9, maybe 7, 8, because it's always a reproduction of what's out there. But this is a question I think we should discuss with the community.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Trish, go.
Thanks, Diego. It is very interesting, and I agree very much that benchmarking is really really important to compare and improve our things. So I think the terrain shape and the mechanical properties both matter. So like you can have a ramp but can we also simulate some terrain conditions like slippery, non-slippery, soft, hard, and things like that. So, but the combinations explored, I know.
Yes, actually, we already worked in the past couple of months. We already started working on this because we know that we need to replicate some dynamics at least of the terrain.
Yeah.
So we thought about multi-layer benchmarking testbed, in which there is a basic layer which is the main slope. The second layer was you have seen that are modules you can put still rigid, and then we have a third layer put on top of this that will replicate the dynamic condition, which are penetration, friction, basically these two.
Yeah, that will be very interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and the problem is now that we cannot, and we don't want to replicate exactly that condition, but we would like to span to have some sampling of the range of this.
Yeah, at least some known conditions, like with at least shear and sinking and then that kind of things. That'd be really important. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Diego, for the talk. Very interesting and following by a very interesting discussion. If I may add something, I think that by the robot point of view, maybe this kind of benchmarks are definitely useful from a certain TRL that is pretty high on. So let's say when the robot reaches a TRL that is around 6, 7, or even more, then really the tests can be definitely helpful to assess the robot performances and then prepare standards in order to have this technology accepted on the community and on the market. Of course, this is a very interesting discussion that we and Diego had a month ago or so. So very, very nice that Marco posed the same question here. I think is a crucial point for the community to solve, really, to have an agreement on what robotic research and newest thing can do in the real world. All right, so I think we are in the break right now, and we will keep going with the second part of this kickoff in 10 minutes or so. So let's start again at 4 p.m. with the next talk that will be by Cosimo della Santina, University of Delft. Right, so let's see you in 10 minutes. Okay. Can you hear me? Back. All right. So I think we can start with the second set of presentations. And right, so it's now Professor Cosimo della Santina by University of Delft.
Okay. Sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I have so first of all, thank you, Manolo, for the introduction, and I just want to briefly say that I'm really super excited about this project. I was already before, but after hearing all this presentation, I'm even more excited. And yeah, disclaimer: my presentation is going to be quite similar to the one that Paolo delivered, in the sense that it's going to not to be very much technical, and it will be more about the group university. And tomorrow I will present a bit more technical details. Okay, so we are Technical University of Delft. As the name may let you understand, we are in Delft, Netherlands. But where is Delft? Is at the base of the triangle composed of Amsterdam, The Hague, and Rotterdam. And this is a small city, but a very nice historical city, which is the direct expression of the Dutch Golden Age, so with a long cultural history dating much back, much before the beginning of TU Delft. And on the artistic level, just to give some names, on the artistic level, this was the house of Vermeer, and that is indeed a painting of Delft, and not far from where the university is. From Vermeer, and from a scientific point of view, it was, for example, the place where the microscope was invented by a guy that I will not try to pronounce because I'm not Dutch. So this is the campus, as I said, pretty close to the view that you saw before from Vermeer. And so we are in South Holland. TU Delft is one of the 4 technical universities of the Netherlands, and it's actually the oldest and the largest. And it was founded in 1842 as a place where civil servants of the Dutch East Indies were training, and then passed through several changes of name until 1986, when it officially became Delft University of Technology. So despite the relatively short history, we have quite a bunch of nice and notable alumni and faculties, some Nobel laureates in mathematics and physics, and some artists. And here it may be quite relevant, for example, for this project, Theo Jansen, who is probably known by many of you for his kinetic sculpture. So these passive walkers that only use wind to locomote, and you can sometimes see them on the seaside of The Hague, close to Delft. And TU Delft is also part of several research networks. So within TU Delft, we are part of the Mechanical, Maritime, and Materials Engineering faculty. And this faculty is composed of 7 departments, so process and energy, precision engineering, material science, maritime and transport, control systems, biomechanical engineering, and last but not least, cognitive robotics. Yeah, since few years, our faculty is considered in the top 10 of the best engineer faculties in mechanical engineering faculties by QS ranking. I thought we had a small flexion. So as I was saying, cognitive robotics, this is where getting closer where we are. So this is a department comprising more than 20 faculties, from assistant up to full professors, and then 2 lecturers, administrative staff, technicians, and quite a lot of PhD students and postdocs. And our main focus is in the interaction between humans and robots in actually a quite broad sense. So we are divided into 4 sections based on the topics. So we have a robot dynamics section with 4 faculties, and that really goes on the full spectrum on robot application of robot dynamics, is from very theoretical and cognitive to very applicative. This is for example, a picture of the Amazon Robotic Challenge that some of these faculties participated into and won a few years ago. Then we have intelligent vehicles section, which is pretty self-explanatory name. And then we have human-robot interaction, which comprises haptic interfaces, proper interaction between cooperation between human and robots, and robotic rehabilitations. And then there is us, which is the section on learning and autonomous control. Our interest is on control, learning, optimization, embedded system, real-time aspects. And we are five faculties. Of these 5 faculties involved in NI, we are myself, which Cosimo della Santina, and Jens Kober. And then we are planning to hire a postdoc. So, by the way, if you have any PhD student which is close to finish that may be interested, just let us know. So, TU Delft is made of 8 faculties. We are the mechanical engineering one, but this is not the only place where people is doing robotics here, and actually 6 out of the 8 faculties have some major involvement in robotics. This is the reason why TU Delft created this robotic institute to coordinate all of our efforts. And this is then ended up in a broader activity which is called Robo Valley, which involves more than close to 200 researchers and a lot of companies. So it's just some nice videos of stuff that is going on here. So, and as said, you can see here some nice videos of stuff that people around the faculty, around the university is doing in robotics. But probably more relevant to our project is the field lab Robo House, which is also part of Robo Valley, so which is a space that has been founded by a bunch of partners, including Robo Valley itself and TU Delft, and is at the same time an incubator for companies and a place where people in academia can go, both in companies and academia can go and build and test prototypes and get in touch also within each other and with companies. So this is would be nice to use this space within our project, for example, for exploitation and dissemination, but also for testing prototype if we get to do some testing here in Delft. And even at a higher level, I will not go more into that, but this is some other activities going on at the level of Delft on robotics. So quite a lot of stuff. So concerning NI, this is the network of work package that we already start to know very well. So, and within this network of work package, our focus as TU-Delft would be mostly in work package 3. I would say almost exclusively in work package 3, which is about planning and control. So one of the 3 parts of the mind of our robots, but we have also some minor involvement in work package 1, 6, 7, and 8 for the extent that concern actually control and planning. So more specifically, we are interested in, and we will contribute in developing what we could call the low-level circuitry of the intelligence of our robots. So the planning and low-level control. This will be mostly focused, but not only focused on the integrator 3, which is the new articulated soft robot. This is because the animal, of course, already have in place, as we saw before in the presentation by Marco, quite nice planning and control algorithm already working quite well. But also because our really main interest is to not just to provide some nice interface to high level of the autonomy stacks, but also to try to understand how planning and low-level control algorithm can be devised in such a way that the natural dynamics of the robot, so the physical intelligence of the robot, can be really exploited and not cancelled out by control. And how our previous experience of our groups can contribute with that. So as I said, we are mainly 2 faculties in working on this project. Myself, so I am assistant professor, and my group activities is mostly focused on all the brain related or the intelligence related aspects of both continuum articulated soft robotics, so from learning to model-based control, perception, and also physical intelligence. I thought we will not have explicitly tasks related to physical intelligence in this project, and also a bunch of other activities, some of them possibly connected to knee, like theory of nonlinear oscillation, for example, or control of rigid robots. The other faculty is Jens Colbert, that is an associate professor, and his interest is in all that concern machine learning applied to movements of robot arms, and we can see here 2 videos of 2 of his main interests within this big field, which are imitation learning on the left and reinforcement learning on the right. And its common big question across all these aspects are into how to make this algorithm efficient and intuitive by relying either human inputs or prior knowledge on the systems, and with a vast range of applications that you can see here. So these are just some ongoing projects that can be related somehow to NEEM, like, for example, this Open Deep Robotics, which is about developing open source framework for deep learning and robotics. i40 Lab, which is about developing AI helping retails in Netherlands with AI. Then we have the ERC of Jens, which is called Teaching Robot Interactively. So again, pretty self-explanatory name. And then also connected to learning physical human-robot cooperation, we have this project funded by Human Research Institute. And then we have FlexCraft, which is about learning interaction tasks in the context of agri-food industry. And that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Cosimo, for your talk. Very excited to have you here as component of our team after having been one of our PhD students. Yeah. That's great.
Indeed.
All right. So if there are any questions for Cosimo. we can take or write, so we can go to the next speaker. That is Franco Angelini from University of Pisa.
Hi, I will share my screen.
All right.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Manuel. So, a very quick introduction of our institution. University of Pisa was founded in 1343, and with that is one of the oldest and most prestigious university in Europe. Our lab, research center Recopiaggio, is a bit younger and was founded in 1965, and it targets two main research fields that are robotics and bioengineering. And the two of them collaborate and cooperate around four main topics that are mind, matter, motion, and manipulation. So these are some of the people working in the lab. We are quite a few. And these are the European funded projects that the robotic group is working on in the latest years. So with so many people and so many projects, we work on several different topics. I will discuss just the one that are more related to the natural intelligence projects. And I will start with adaptive and effectors. Here in Pisa, we developed this anthropomorphic hand, the Pisa IFT soft hand, that is composed of 19 degrees of freedom, but only 1 degree of actuation. And this confers to the hand a very low control complexity and also a very compliant and adaptable behavior, but also a stronger resilient one, as you can see in the bottom videos. Moving on, we also utilize the same idea of the soft hand to design a soft gripper that targets a slightly different topic, that is grasping objects with very different geometrical properties. This means very different size and weights, like fruit and vegetables, that at the same time are also very fragile. From that, we shift our focus from the hand to the foot, and we employ the same technology of the finger of the soft hand to design also the sole of a foot. And this enables to have a very adaptable behavior, so enables the foot to comply with uneven terrain and also to absorb shocks. And of course, we designed a version for quadrupeds. This version is also sensorized. That means that we can also reconstruct the curvature, the shape of the ground while working. And this will be used in the natural intelligence projects. I mean, a new version of it, of course. We also worked on actuation. We're still working on it. And we developed these actuators that are variable stiffness. They present some spring inside of the actuator that confer to the joint of the robot a certain degree of compliance, of flexibility, and this basically mimic the functionalities of human muscles. So if you want to move the link, you can simply move the two motors in the same direction, while with a co-contraction, so moving the two motors in opposite direction, you can vary the stiffness of the joint of the robot. With these built-in blocks, so with these actuators and the soft hand, we realized several different robots, and we'll present just a few of them. For example, to handle heterogeneous objects, we designed the soft handler that is composed of a soft gripper and a compliant manipulator. And this enables to adapt the position of the effector of the robot to the position of the object. And also, it allows to grasp very fragile objects. For example, here you can see the robot grasping some eggs. We also worked on humanoids. So together with IIT, we designed the Walkman that is still actuated with compliant joints, with elastic joint. And the main target, the main goal of Walkman is to help human operators in disaster scenarios. For this reason, we also employed and tested it in a real post-earthquake scenario like the one in Amatrice in 2016. And here the tasks were building assessment, data collection, and also object retrieval. Here you can see the robot retrieving some object inside the damaged house, while the operator is still operating the robots outside of the house, so in a safe position, that is the pallet station. And yes, you can see the robot taking the object. Still working on teleoperation, we also developed Alter Ego, that is a humanoid torso mounted on 2 wheels. The main goal of Alter Ego is to perform safe human-robot interaction. And as you can see here in the bottom video, we have Alter Ego playing with some children. But at the same time, Alter Ego is also able to perform heavy tasks. And this is thanks to the actuation, also to the hand. So as you can see, the robot is composed of our variable stiffness actuators and of this of hand. So vary the stiffness, we can perform different tasks. Okay, with so many robots, we decided also to work on benchmarking them and assessing their performance. For example, we designed this benchmarking setup to test the resilience of the hand and of the grasp of the hand in presence of impacts. And we used also the same idea to benchmark the balancing performance of robot in presence of disturbances. For example, here you can see our robot, Alter Ego, that is resisting some impulsive and repetitive perturbations. Okay, so we did not work only on the mechanical design of robots. In natural intelligence terminology, we can say that we do not focus only on the body of the robot, but also on the mind, and this means on planning and control. Starting with control of variable stiffness actuators, we explored several different solutions. For example, we employed optimal control to maximize the peak performance of our actuator. Particularly here, you can see how we focused on maximizing the impact velocity at the end of a trajectory. And here the solution was to basically exploit the springs, the mechanical springs that are inside the actuators, to store energy and then release it when needed. We also tested different approaches like anticipatory control, and the reason behind that is that if you use high gain feedback control with flexible joint robot, you have the drawback of stiffening the robot. So basically you should avoid it, and this is the reason why we tried also feed-forward approach, so anticipatory control. In particular here, this controller is based on iterative learning control, and basically the robot repeating the same task several times, it learns how to do it. So yes, in this video you can see the robot learning how to perform the task. At the beginning it is not able to pass the obstacles, but at the end, as you can see, it is able to track the desired trajectory. Okay, we work also on locomotion. For example, we target efficient locomotion with this planar pivot robot actuated with elastic actuation. And our approach here was to use numerical optimization to minimize the cost of transport. So we perform hundreds of simulations, And then we simplified this complexity through principal component analysis and primitives. And at the end, this is the result. We could use it online, and could also vary the velocity and also the height of the step of the robot. And we could do it online without losing performance, so in an efficient way. As I said before, we developed this novel adaptive foot for quadrupeds, but this comes with the problem that most of the foot old selection planner consider only point or flex contact. For this reason, we designed this planner that is based on convolutional neural network, and basically through the shape of the ground, the curvature of the ground, and also the kinematics of the robot, the planner chooses the best spot where to place the foot. Okay, finally, if you want to move in a structured environment like the natural one, you have also to consider interactions, because they are usually unavoidable. So interaction can be desired or not desired, and a typical solution to this problem is the employment of impedance control. But impedance control comes with the problem of choosing the gains. So different tasks or different scenarios may require different impedance behavior. So to avoid that, we developed this planner that chooses the optimal gains to maximize the robustness of our system in presence of disturbances and yes, interactions. So for example, if you use fixed time impedance, like in an upper row, you have that the robot fails to pass the obstacles. That is unperceived, so the interaction is not desired. While if you use our controller, the robot is able to pass the obstacles without any damage. Finally, interaction can also be desired. For example, if you want to push a button, you want to keep the interaction stable. And so there are issues related to the stability of the interaction, the resilience of the robot and of the environment, and also there could be positioning errors. And we found that there are some theoretical bounds on the Cartesian safeness of the vector of the robot that must be satisfied. And these boundaries depends on uncertainties, on the shape of the environment, and also on the interaction forces. So in this video, you can see how if the boundaries are satisfied, the robot can successfully push the button, so execute the task, while if the boundaries are not satisfied, the robot fails. And there is slippage over the button. Okay, to conclude, University of Pisa is the coordinator of the project and will contribute in more or less all the work packages. And these three are the ones that we lead. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Franco, for the talk. If there isn't any question, we go directly to the next speaker. That is Pierangela Angelini.
Thank you, Manolo.
Right.
I share my screen. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Manolo. Thank you to all. It's a very big pleasure to be here. I would like, first of all, introduce myself. My name is Pierangela Angelini. I'm a researcher of the Italian National Institute for Environmental Protection and Research. And inside the institute, I operate within the Department for Biodiversity Monitoring. My professional experience is in habitat mapping, habitat assessment, and habitat management. Since 2012, I coordinated national reporting activities on habitat, and this was for the third and the fourth national reports under Habitat Directive. Habitat Directive, which is the milestone for nature conservation in Europe. And during this period, I also participated in the working group established by the European Commission for the review of the guideline for reporting, guideline for member states. And I coordinate the publication of the first national guideline on habitat monitoring. This was in 2016. And for the participation to the NI project, the specific role of our institute, we will see tomorrow in a specific presentation. But now let me introduce the team organized inside our institute to follow the project. I am the team coordinator and the contact point for this project. Then there is Laura Casella. She will follow all scientific issues for the project. Then there is Rosanna Augello. She will follow communication issues. Then we have Andrea Fabbri and Antonella Ceccarelli that will follow administrative and financial issues. At the end of this year, we are planning for a research grant and to increase our team for following the project. Now I would like to give the floor to my colleague Laura Casella. She is one of the Italian representatives in Biodiversity National Reference Center for EIONET. EIONET is the official European network for environmental information. And she will illustrate our institute vision, activities, and tasks. Please, Laura.
Thank you, Pierangela. Good afternoon to colleagues, public, if there are any, or there will be. Let's start with our vision. It is intended to underline the connection between environment protection and human well-being. And then who we are. ISPRA is the National Institute for Environmental Protection and Research. It's a body with technical, public body, with technical scientific independence, operating as an autonomous organization. In this framework, we respond to obligations set by national laws and receive general guidance from the Ministry for Ecological Transition. The Institute represents a peculiarity at EU level since it works with an operational mandate, so as an environmental agency, but acts within a research legal framework as a knowledge center. We rely on these values to complete our activities, that are authoritativeness, reliability, and transparency. We act as the reference technical scientific body for environmental protection research at the service of citizens, institutions, and companies. Some of our strengths are, first of all, people. We are more than 1,200 people, about 800 researchers and technicians. We are spread among 8 sites around Italy, and we have our headquarters here in Rome. The other strength is the full environmental spectrum. Our responsibility covers from environmental knowledge to monitoring, assessment, control, and prevention. On environmental issues, we provide technical and scientific advice to Italian government for national and international initiatives. As an agency, activities on environmental protection rely on the network of regional agencies. We can go a little. Okay, that's the right one. Thank you. We rely on a network of regional agencies and a huge number, really huge number of operators. Here you can find these numbers on this activity of the Institute. As to the research activity, is mainly applied research. The Institute carries out research activities for application purposes and aimed at monitoring the environment and the territory. And we have an increasingly consistent use of tools provided by new technologies such as Earth observation, and in particular those provided by the Copernicus program, because it can significantly contribute to the knowledge of territorial transformation process that we study, offering elements to support environmental policies. Now a quick glance on some of the activities. The organization of the Institute reflects the tasks that we are called to act on. It's a great variety, from environmental assessment, control, and sustainability. We host the National Center for the National Laboratories Network, the National Center for the Waste Cycle, matter about coastal zone protection and operational oceanography, and again, the National Center for Environmental Crisis, Emergencies and Damage, the Geological Survey of Italy, the National Environmental Information System, the National Statistics System, communication with institutions, companies, citizens, events and dissemination, including the National Center for Environmental Education Training, and also library and museum networks. And last, but only for narrative needs, our Department for Environmental Protection and Monitoring and Biodiversity Conservation. We have expertise on monitoring, reporting, and data collection related to terrestrial and marine species and habitats, protected areas, environmental directives on emissions, water and air quality. We provide data and expertise on UNIS classifications, CDDA, nature directives, water framework directives, and many others. Details on this activity will be introduced tomorrow, but it is worth to say here that we are involved in the data collection and processing for the implementation of the Habitats Directive. That is, in the policy framework, intercept other legally binding initiatives, so it is clear that data from its implementation can affect the full implementation of other pan-European policies. I just indicate some examples of these connections here. In the Habitats Directive, monitoring parameters are shared at EU level so that data coming from this monitoring activity can be aggregated and upscaled from country to biogeographical level. As to habitat types, if we focus on 3 of the parameters required for the assessment, that are mainly area and distribution, we can perceive the need to record a huge amount of scientific sound data in the field, and the importance of integrating artificial intelligence and automated tools for habitat detection, including remote and proximal data. We are responsible to elaborate and publish guidelines and manuals to operate on this topic, but our role as a research institute is also to investigate on new tools and approaches through experimentation and validation. I only cite here a research on the integration of Earth observation data and field data for habitat monitoring that is carried out by our institute, funded by the National Special Agency, showing just an example of forest habitat mapping using supervised machine learning model. Through the integration of big data and innovative machine learning approaches for calculation, scenario maps are obtained that allow a scientifically solid and timely analysis of the changes taking place for terrestrial biodiversity, and this allows targeted and effective interventions for its protection and management. This part on ground truth is really relevant here, since data from this project could constitute a new set of response variables Many of the parameters required for the assessment of changes in time and space in habitat quality can certainly benefit from this integration of information from unsupervised and semi-unsupervised procedures. A few words now on our international framework. We take part to many international initiatives on environmental protection and control, both as an agency and as a research institute. We are very active in European partnership and research projects. In the EEA, ISPRA represents Italy in the unit with NFP and NRC representatives, not only me in biodiversity, but also in the other NRCs, thematics. We also represent the ministry and Italy in different EU working groups, such as the European Commission Working Group on Forest and Nature, that is a sub-working group of the CCBN that is responsible to taking advice on the European New Forest Strategy. ISPRA also contributes to the European developments of compliance assurance by participating in planning activities of uptake of geointelligence services in the Copernicus area, the FPCAP program against environmental crimes. So it was only a short introduction due to the time allocated, but here you can find our addresses and social contacts, where we publish daily news about environment and biodiversity, where our activities and products are available for the public. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Pierangela and Laura. I have a question. So the data that you showed in your one of your last slides are just data from satellite acquisitions? Or not? Maybe I missed it.
I don't have I cannot manage the images, but no, we have you mean in the machine learning approach in the random forest diagram. We integrated, but also proximal sensors, but all data from Sentinel that can be useful for the analysis, but also spectral analysis that we are proceeding by ourselves, not only Copernicus images, or not only Copernicus products. We use also other elaboration from Sentinels, and you use lots of in situ data, because a great part of Copernicus program is based on the in situ data, and the response variables are the really important, the key factor that makes a successful analysis, because the problem in this kind of unsupervised or semi-unsupervised mapping approach is that you have to rely on a huge number of ground data, of field data, and this is something that is always not enough. We really lack data from the ground truth. I don't know if it was your question.
Right. So hope to put some technology at work for providing
exactly.
Some for you. All right. Other questions for Laura and Pierangela? Right, so if not, we can go with the next speaker. That is Riccardo Persichini, QB Robotics, a small medium enterprise based in Italy.
Hello, everyone. I start to share. Oh. Okay. You can see the first slide. Thank you, Manolo. Thank you all. I'm Riccardo Persichini, a mechanical engineer of QB Robotics. I work in QB Robotics since 2017, but I know the company from my master thesis. I bring you a greeting from my CEO Fabio Bonomo, and we are very happy to be a part of this interesting project. Now I show you who is QB Robotics. QB Robotics is a spin-off of Research Center Enrico Piaggio, University of Pisa, and IIT, Italian Institute of Technology of Genova. The company established in 2011. We are in the tech cluster near Pisa. We are 11 employees. We have our own robotic lab, and we have an internal production process for our products. We are also ISO standard for quality monitoring process. We have many partnerships in European projects like Reconcile, SoftPro Thing, NI from today, and the core of our company and of our products is the soft robotics. Conventional robots are stiff, heavy, and they can be dangerous for humans, in particular for collaborative tasks. Instead, the soft robots are adaptive, smooth, soft. They can deal very well with unstructured environments, and they are safe for humans interaction, like the robotic hand that you can see in this picture. The first of our products that I want to show you is a compact and modular variable stiffness actuator, the QB Move Advanced, that you had already saw in the University of Pisa presentation. It's a modular actuator where you can change continuously the position, but also the stiffness of the output shaft during the tasks. And thanks to its shape and the particular kit of flanges, you can assemble your desired kinematic of a soft robot. It can be a very useful device to give a first approach of soft robots for educational, university, and R&D. You can manage it by MATLAB, Simulink, ROS, C++, so it's very useful for many tasks and very easy to use. Another interesting product are our anthropomorphic robotics hands. We have two models of QBsoft hand, the research for educational, academic, and R&D field, and the industry one for industry tasks, and that's compliant to the main ISO standards for collaborative robots. About the story of these products, basically the QB soft hand research is an evolution of the Pisa IT soft hand. So it has 19 degrees of freedom and just one motor that pulling a tendon that pass through all the fingers, close all the fingers together. So you can obtain a single movement compliant to the first synergy of the human hand, and by elastic joints the hand can open again by releasing the tendon. So the hand behavior depends on the physical interaction of its hardware with the environment. It's very easy to control because there's just motor controlled by position and current. There's no any sensors because you can see the intelligence of the hand is inside the hand itself. It's a mechanical intelligence. There's no any force contact sensors and so on. It's a plug and play. We are in UR Plus. You can is integrated in many robots like Panda, UR, and so on. The other one, the industry, the QPs of the industry is an evolution from the research one. This hand has the same soft actuation, but more it's ISO standard for collaborative industry. In this hand, you can change also the position of the wrist, and it's IP65. It's driver it's outside of the hand, but it can easily integrated in any cobots. The soft robotics can find interesting applications in several business units, such as educational, collaborative robots applications, and sorry, that's quite late. Are you seeing the videos?
No.
Oh, I think your screen is not in sharing mode anymore.
It's logged off.
Mm.
Yeah. For now, yes. You see?
Now we are seeing the presenter view, so not the slide wide screen. You should like switch the screens if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I have some internet trouble.
All right.
Thanks for your patience, guys. So we are interested in many fields like biomedical, prosthetics, service robots, and collaborative applications. The other use cases for industrial robotics tasks. It's sorry for the delay.
Videos are playing right now, at least in my screen.
Yes, but I don't.
Okay.
It doesn't. Yeah, maybe the presentation is too heavy, and the puppet work. I try to. Do you see something like that for now?
Yes, you're still in screen sharing mode, so we can see your presentation.
Thanks. I have a fully wide screen now. No. Better to go on with the slides without the videos, because I think they are too heavy for on the internet.
Yeah, you should switch again between the screens.
Yeah. Manolo, what do you say now?
Again, the presenter view. I think you can just conclude with the presentation in normal view if you want, without widescreen. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, now you can see, yeah, the Robotics international presence. We have 23 distributors with direct export in 25 countries, and we have a lot of partnership with university and research institutes. Now I would like to summarize what we'll do in this project. In particular, the particular effort will be in work package 2 and 6. For work package 2, we will do a new design of a new soft flute. It will be water resistant and with improved haptic capabilities. We think to keep using IMU sensors for local inclination and ground curvature, and we will use sensors for contact forces and foot to contact surface estimation. Then in work package 6, we will integrate the soft foot with a commercial quadruped for month 6. Then we will integrate the new adaptive foot in the robot. In task 6.5, we will integrate the adaptive foot both from hardware and software issue. Thanks, guys, and sorry for technical troubles, but due to smart working, I have not good internet like in my company. Tomorrow I will be in QB Robotics, so it could be better for me. Thanks, guys.
Right. Okay, so if there are any questions for Riccardo, thank you for your talk, and it happens all the time, so don't worry about it. I see.
I have a quick one.
Okay, go
So this industrialized version of the QB hand, does that have the same degree of actuation as the previous one? Or
yeah,
did you increase that? Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. That's again 19 degrees of freedom, just one motor, so you can control it like the research one. The evolution consists in the certification for collaborative robots or for industrial field.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Is there any other question, guys?
Quick one also from my side.
Yeah.
Do you think that food can be available for us before the quadruped goes into it's a completely fully integrated? For just one to characterize also the test beds that we are doing in the lab, because it would be nice to use that.
Yeah, I following the work packages. Yeah, the new adaptive food will be. We think it will be designed in less than 1 year, because the hardware integration is foreseen for month 18. So I think a first prototype will be ready sooner.
Great.
But during the project, we can share information, prototypes for partners that need information for a better integration, particular for sensors and so on.
Also, Diego, if you want, we can provide an earlier version of the current food that we have that will be from the functional side more or less the same as.
Yes. It's would be perfect for us.
I'm sure we can manage it.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so we can get the second break. 10-minute break again. So we will start with the third part of the kickoff first day at 5:10, and we will have now the 4 talks by the botany researchers, and so let's start back at 5:10. All right, thank you for the talks for now, and we'll see in a while.
Hello, Trish. How are you? I cannot hear you. You're muted. You're muted.
I was sorry. Yeah, I said thank you very much for introducing me to this consortium. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, it's nice.
Very good.
I couldn't attend most of everything, but it was very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's
when
nice.
it's open up, I'm looking forward to. Oh, so I can see the Pisa Tower.
Yeah.
I've been there twice.
Ah,
Yeah, it's really
it's
nice.
right there. It's right outside.
You can see. Wow.
This is thing, but I mean, but it's.
Yeah. Okay, so look forward to visit Pisa. I didn't know that it was started in 1300.
Yeah.
The university.
Yeah, 1347, I think.
1347. Yes.
I think, ready for the third part of the meeting. And okay, so yeah, so let's keep going with it. So we will start now the 4 talks by the third parties of this project. So the research teams that are from the botany research areas. We will start with University of Siena. Actually, they are formed because they are related to 4 habitats that we selected for this project: dunes, grasslands, forests, and screes. We will start with the talk by University of Siena. I knew that actually Claudia cannot join actually the meeting, but still we should have.
Yes. Good afternoon, Manolo. Yes, it's me.
Leopoldo from University of Siena.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for being here, and Professor Leopoldo De Simone from University of Siena. I leave you the stage.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not yet a professor. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the moment. And today, this afternoon, I will introduce you our group of research, the group of plant diversity and community ecology of the Department of Life Sciences. This group is composed of 9 members. Our PI, Dr. Claudia Angiolini, a full-time researcher, Dr. Simona Maccherini, the director of the Botanic Garden of Siena, Dr. Ilaria Bonini, a technician, Paolo Castagnini, a forest scientist, Antonio Gabellini, and 2 postdoctoral researchers, Dr. Emanuele Fanfarillo and I, and 2 scholarship holders, Simona Sarmati and Tiberio Fiaschi. So the primary and major focus of our group is investigating plant communities.
Sorry about that.
Yes, tell me.
Are you sharing some slides?
Yes. Yes.
At least I cannot see.
Let me see. Sorry. Well,
I can.
All right. So maybe it's just
do you see? In this moment, I'm not using a presentation. Let me see. Do you see, Manolo?
Yes. Now I can see the.
Perfectly.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, as I was saying, the major focus of our research is the plant communities, investigating plant communities, and in order to, we take in consideration their different organization levels and also under different perspectives. But what we want to achieve is to study and understand the assembly rules that are governing their composition, diversity, and functioning. The primary activity of our group is monitoring plant communities in their habitat, but our special focus is the habitat types included in the Habitat Directive. When we survey and monitor such habitats, we pose particular attention on the objective and quantitative identification of plant communities, not only respect to their composition, but also about the quantitative data governing, ruling their assemblies, meaning the environmental data such as monitoring the with weather stations, the meteorological stations, the microclimate, or using unmanned aircraft systems in order to access inaccessible places such as cliffs. Such drivers of plant diversity are, for example, I put here some examples, such as, for example, the proximity of dunes to the seaside, or the gradient of water on the riverine systems, the riparian systems, or the inclination of cliffs, or the soil properties in flood. Another major focus is the analyzing the effects of the forest management on such plant communities and habitats. The subject of our study is pretty vast, it's pretty wide. In fact, we practically include almost the entire plant kingdom in our research, except algae, meaning the bryophytes, pteridophytes, but especially gymnosperms and angiosperms. The applications, the outcomes of our type of research include the basic knowledge for the institution and management of protected areas, such as, for example, the interaction between humans and natural environments, or the use of GIS in order to delimiting the borders and the proximities respect to such risks respect to plant diversity. Another application, as I mentioned before, is the identification, characterization, and monitoring of such natural habitats according to the European Habitat Directive, meaning that we focus on the habitats of European community interest. Another application is the implementation of floristic databases. An example might be the geographic positioning of plant species and habitats, and the easy to achieve search of such databases from any user, or the impact assessment of agriculture on biodiversity, but also the opposite, meaning the biodiversity impact on the agricultural quality, or the environmental restoration on impacted sites. You can see on the right side of the screen the H2020 Alps in central western Italy, where the Carrara marble is extracted. And on the left, Dr. Fanfarillo is
Sorry if I interrupt, but I also have the same issue as Manolo, so I still see slide number 3 on my screen.
Me too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you see now?
Yes, but somehow, can you go to? Yeah, now I think now we're on the right slide, but before it was stuck.
So this is a recurrent issue in Teams. I'm sorry about that. So I don't know if the recording of the screen recorded any slides I added. So I will just fastly go through them for adding a recording. Anyway, the one that I showed you was the last slide. So unfortunately, that was very unfortunate. So, as I was saying, you can see applied restoration attempt from our group. On the left of the screen, you see Dr. Fanfarillo planting some cuttings of canning rose, Rosa canina, on the debris of the extraction of marble in the H2020 Alps. Here you see a list of selected publications made by our groups, and this is us. So that was very unfortunate before. I'm waiting for your questions, if there is any.
All right, so don't worry, we can fix this and upload a video, a recorded video. Don't worry about that. So.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your talk. So, one question by my side is,
yes.
If and how data provided in a more reproducible way with robots can help the environmental monitoring process that is, I mean, as you shown in your talk, has been now done actually by human operators.
Interesting question, Mariano. Thank you. One of the major issues in gathering environmental data is because it is time-consuming, especially the monitoring of plant species. So you need an expertise in order to identify species in nature, and moreover, the quantification of their cover abundance in nature. Although we try as much as we can to make it quantitative and effectively reproducible, there is always a human factor in it. So I hope that with the Natural Intelligence Project, this might reduce the bias created involuntarily by the operators, the human operators, and also to reduce time of.
Are you just going there and taking pictures, or are you taking samples, or have to dig out stuff? What is the typical interaction?
It depends on the type of sampling that we are achieving. For example, if you want to quantify the cliff inclination, which is an environmental variable that you need to take, somehow I managed to take, pictures with a new man-real vehicle, and then reproducing it in a 3D model in order to achieve a quantitative information. Another completely different type of data is the cover abundance of plant species in nature, which requires, firstly, to identify plants, and secondly, to understanding how much cover they have on a certain quantitative space that we call plot or relevé. Such thing normally for time-related issues is always reproduced subjectively. Two or more operators in the field see by eye, and they are trained and professionals, and so the measure is mostly affordable, but there is always a categorization into some classes in order to, it's not precise to the 0.1%, let's say.
Thanks.
As roboticists and artificial intelligence scientists, we of course have to learn a lot about this, and this is.
I hope to learn the same from you to have an exchange.
This is very, very precious. So let's go with the second talk, Marco Caccianiga by University of Milan. So Marco, over.
Thank you, Manolo. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. I will share the screen, and please let me know if there are some issues like those of some of the previous presentations. Okay, thank you, Manolo, and everybody for the interesting day, and also for involving me in this really stimulating project. I will talk about alpine screes that are the habitat that I will present. Today I will just talk about my research topics, and also about the environment, the habitat. I will try to show you the general features of this habitat, and tomorrow we will discuss more in detail the technical issues and the monitoring plans that we have to build together. Well, I work on the bioscience department of the University of Milan, which is a very broad department that deals from biomedical issues to ecology. More in detail, my research group is tiny. here I present collaborators on the topics that involve high altitude ecosystems, that are those that we are dealing with two PhD students. Particularly Barbara will be more involved in our sampling. What I work on, my research group works on high altitude flora and vegetation from an ecological perspective, so not only dealing with the distribution of plants as a consequence of climatic and environmental inputs, but also on a broader perspective, on a community level, also dealing with interaction within plants and animals, particularly arthropods, insects, and so on. Then there are also other issues, but I highlighted in blue those that are somewhat linked to the project that we are talking about. Within these general research topics, what we are dealing with is the study of some high altitude landforms that include the habitat that we are going to talk about from many points of view. The main one is that of flora, plant species that live on it, vegetation, plant communities that such species build, and also fauna. What we are studying are the relationships among plant communities, arthropod communities, but particularly plants, because we are botanists, and the physical environment. This has an important for us endpoint is the outline of how such environments can behave as refugium areas in a warmer world that is to come in the next decades, because they have some peculiar microenvironmental features that probably will allow the survival of plant species that otherwise will be heavily affected by climate change. In this picture, you can start looking at the kind of environment in which the robots will have to walk. In order to outline also some features of the physical environment, together with the occurrence, the sampling of plants, more or less with the same methods that have been shown in the previous talk, we also try to outline and to have a general view of the physical environment through temperature and humidity data loggers, so point-like data that comes from the ground, from the micro topographic points, weather stations that can be built and work for a sampling season in order to have the general features of the atmosphere, and also UAV surveys and soil samples. The other topic is less important, so I will skip it, but there are some things that will come to tomorrow, is the study of plant and pollinator insects, but this has less in common with our project, but I just mentioned it because tomorrow we will discuss a little bit about this. So, a small profile of our habitat. We are dealing with alpine screes, habitat codes 8110 and 8120 that are distinguished from the different bedrock. The first one is siliceous screes, the second one is calcareous ones. So this is the main difference. We take both of them into account here. Such habitat is originated by different physical processes, mostly gravitative phenomena, so rockfalls that are triggered by frost in rock cliffs of the mountains, and very important are ice-related dynamics, glaciers, and permafrost actions. Such array of drivers, of physical drivers, result in different morphology and different physical features of the screes that are reflected by different features of the living part of plants and animals. Here we can see a scree that is determined by the glacier occurrence. It's an almost died glacier. Here, this is a huge permafrost related scree, that is a huge debris accumulation with an ice core inside. Together, within all these different features, we can try to find out some shared traits among the habitats. There is an overall low plant cover, as you can see here. It's variable, but it's overall low. Substrate is made mainly by blocks that are various sized, from centimeter to meters and even many meters. The substrate can be from completely stable to highly unstable, following the different processes that built the scree. The altitude ranges from 2,000 to 3,000 meters above sea level. There are some further possible traits that can occur in these habitats. Underlying ice, that is very interesting for us from the ecological point of view, but also from the physical behavior of the scree. This occurs on the so-called debris-covered glaciers. It can be a complex morphology made of ridges and slopes, like this one we can see in the picture. We can see on the top a ridge, a moraine ridge, and also flowing water from glacier streams. This is an overview of a typical environment where we can see how variable plant cover can be. A specific point is that of screes with an ice core inside. This is a typical example. This is one of the sites that I would like to explore within this project. They should be attributed to a different habitat, 8340 permanent glacier, but until now they have been included in the habitat that we are dealing with. So these are still considered as scree communities and can be investigated, also because they are very interesting, because they can host living organisms above ice. Finally, we can say that the conservation status in the Alpine and Mediterranean biogeographical region that has been assessed within the Habitat Directive is generally favorable, but there are some threats that are important to explore also within this project. One is that of human impact, that is mostly due to outdoor sports. Here we can see a ski run that destroyed an important habitat, a scree habitat in the Italian Prealps. But what I'm more interested in, and where probably our kind of monitoring can be effective, is abiotic natural processes, and particularly climate change, that can be very important in changing the dynamics of the vegetation. This is both research topics that we are exploring with our traditional monitoring methods, but also something that where probably robots can help a lot, helping us in collecting rigorous and quantitative data. So that's just what I wanted to show today. Tomorrow I will show you some more specific technical issues and the places where I was thinking our sampling could be performed. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you for your talk. Any questions for Marco? Diego, go.
Yes, thank you, Marco. A quick question is, how long do you normally your exploration mission will last?
How long?
Days.
Yes.
You go there during days, and
usually I stay there for 4 or 5 days, and then I go back. Usually, but it depends. Another issue that I will discuss tomorrow is how reachable some of these places are, and so some logistical issues. In general, we plan some field campaign that will last from 3 days to a week, usually. Not more, because afterwards you have to carry samples and you have to, it's better to come back and come back then again. And some of the sampling must be repeated throughout the season. And as we will discuss tomorrow, the main issue is that the season is very short, because it lasts from when we are lucky on the end of June and until the beginning of September. And the focus is on July and August. This year is very snowy, has been very snowy, so I think that we couldn't start before the end of June.
Thank you. Thinking about efficiency, autonomy, and so on.
Yeah.
I already tried to push this, but unfortunately, there's no prevent us to go in the mountains.
Yes.
Hopefully, we already had the chance to go in forests, dunes, and grasslands, but unfortunately, on skis, not yet, because this year has been good for the snow, unfortunately not good for the skiers.
No.
But
skis are waiting for you for this summer.
All right, so any other questions for Marco? Okay, so we can then go to the next talk. Daniela Gigante from University of Perugia.
Here I am. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and I wish to thank you, Manolo, first of all, because it's a very special chance for me to be a part of this a bit crazy project. It's really thrilling for me, but also a bit frightening, because it's really far away from my usual topics. And I will show you now which are my usual topics, and I'm sure that we can find a common language, because we have similar aims, and I think we should work hard, but I think we can find common points. I try to share my desktop. Please tell me if you can see anything. Can you see my presentation? Okay, so I'm Daniela Gigante. I work at the department DSA3 at University of Perugia. Very few words about my institution. It's a university located in central Italy, and it's a very old one. It was founded in 1308, and it is located in a very, very fascinating Benedictine monastery that was built in the year 965. It's really a special place, so you are all invited to visit us. However, nowadays there is not only the old part, there is also a new area where we host a number of laboratories. The department is rather large, and there are many different topics, also focused, of course, on zootechnology and agriculture. However, in the 3 A's of the name, there is also environment. So this is the part where I'm mostly moving my research activities. I show you some of my research topics. I mostly work in biodiversity conservation. This is my main focus. And in particular, I have been working for many years on Natura 2000's related issues. And this is one of the most important products. I'm still very proud of it, although it's rather old. However, it still remains one reference point in Italy, because it is the Italian manual for interpretation of Annex 1 habitats. And all the habitats that we are going to investigate with this project are listed in the Habitats Directive. So this is an important tool. And during the last 10 years, I took part in a number of projects focused on monitoring, and also focused on assessing the conservation status of habitats. This is one. This is the first ever European Red List of Habitats that was produced in 2016. That also takes into account all the terrestrial habitats in Europe. And in the same period, more or less, I was involved in the development of this important manual produced by ISPRA that is also involved in this project. That is the first trial, the first attempt to provide a methodological protocol for habitat monitoring. Of course, it is still the first type of tool in this sense, so it is not really detailed. And this is also the reason why with this project now we will have also to try to search for appropriate parameters that are really tailored for each type of habitat that we are going to monitor. And also together with ISPRA, I was involved in the Annex 1 habitat reporting. It is a cycle of reporting that is done every 6 years. And the last one was 3 years ago. So it was also a very valuable type of collecting data deriving from monitor at the national scale. At the same time, we produce a number of methodological contributions for habitat monitoring devoted to different types of habitats. And on the other side, we also focus on species because plant species are, of course, related to habitats because they are strictly related with each other. And I am also involved in evaluating the conservation status of plant species. And at the same time, in the last 3 years, we developed a special type of paper that is reporting new occurrences of habitats in Italy. So this is also an important contribution to habitat monitoring. I was involved in a LIFE project specifically focused on Natura 2000 at the regional level. It's over, it finished in 2018, but at the moment I just started with another one that is an integrated LIFE project, so it will last for 7 years. And it is also focused on Natura 2000 issues. In particular, I'm devoted to the topics related with grasslands. In particular, the type of job that I do is composed by different types of activities that go from habitat mapping to habitat monitoring by way of sampling directly in the fields, while on the other side, habitat mapping can be done many times by using satellite imagery, for instance. However, we always need a field approach. We always need to go in the field. This is very important, and this is also the reason why I'm curious to see what we can do together, because for our field, the direct investigation in the field is a basic step in our type of analysis. All these studies have been many times used for Natura 2000 sites planning and management together with local institutions. Another topic where I was involved for a long period is demographic, ecological, and cartographic studies in fragile ecosystems, where we investigated both the plant community and also the population of particularly vulnerable species. And we did it using different tools, including vegetation mapping. At the moment, I'm involved with the grasslands directly because I'm still carrying on a project in Maiella National Park in central Italy that is particularly focused on grasslands, also on a productive point of view. That's very important for this habitat. I will tell you very soon why. And at the same time, taking care of grasslands in Umbria region, also from a conservation but also productive point of view. Few words about grasslands. They are a very, very precious habitat for biodiversity. There were studies showing that grasslands are considered the most plant species-rich habitat in the world. Of course, if we consider forests, everybody knows that the tropical forests are the most species-rich habitats. But if we consider medium-small size vegetation, dry grasslands are for sure the most rich in species. Now we should remember that the amount of species is not always positive. There are also cases when it is not so positive. And it is not all, because we can also have habitats with few species, but those species are very, very precious and rare. However, grasslands are particularly interesting just because of this enormous biodiversity. This is a view of a typical grassland. However, we should remember that this type of grasslands are not totally natural habitats. They are called semi-natural because they are only one segment of the natural succession of vegetation. They are maintained by particular activities which stop this type of habitat in a sort of blocked stage. And if we don't do any type of management, this is what we have. We have a kind of environment that is extremely heterogeneous, extremely dynamic, and characterized by the arrival of many shrub species and later of many tree species. This is an absolutely normal process. It is also a healthy process. However, if we wish to consider grasslands, we have to fight against these types of process. And how can we do that? Management can be done by way of traditional grazing. These are our managers in practice. Sheep, cows, horses, goats are our gardeners in some way. They are the ones who can maintain this special type of habitat in a good state of conservation. And in some case, when the type of grassland is particularly rich and mesophilous, we can also use mowing as a management practice. Both these type of activities should be done in a very balanced way because they can also become a source of problem when they are done in a too much intensive way. In fact, if mowing is too intense or if it's too less intense, it can create important consequences that you can see, especially in the photo on the top right. And on the other side, if grazing becomes too much intensive, you can have important consequences on soil because soil gets compact and waterproof. You have very important consequences on the species because the most vulnerable ones disappears and the most nitrophilous ones will come. So overgrazing can create a very deep change in the species composition and structure of this type of habitat. So the good management is a balanced type of activity. Indeed, at the moment, grasslands are included among the most threatened habitat types in Italy. This is an overview of the results of the fourth habitat reporting compared to the third cycle, that is the one in shaded, in faded colors. And you see that there are some types of habitats, including grasslands, where the red color is prominent. That means that there are many types of grasslands which are really at the moment in a very bad conservation state. And that is because in our mountains, many times there is a process of abandonment of traditional activities. So the main threat at the moment is represented by abandonment. So to summarize, I try to show you that grasslands are a very precious type of habitat characterized by high floristic complexity because they are species-rich habitats, and also characterized by a high variability at community level because when we move from one area to another, we can find very different combination of species. And at the same time, these are habitats which are currently undergoing a serious process of decline. So it is a perfect case study for monitoring. So I'm very happy that we can try to get some help, some support from robotic monitoring. However, we should be aware that it's a very complicated type of habitat because the number of species is very high. And I think that we should not try to focus on species recognition. Tomorrow I will show you some possible types of parameters that we can go focusing on, which can be very good indicators, very good predictors of changes, so very good tools for monitoring. But at the same time, they can be perhaps recognized by your robotic animals. At least I hope so. So thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, I'm very happy.
Thank you, Daniela. Any questions for Daniela? Right, so just let me point out this. So at least my let's say perspective before actually being in contact with this botany community, my idea of habitat was something that is just natural and without any human intervention. So something I really have been happy to learn is that there are several extremely rich from biodiversity point of view, as Daniela told us today, habitats that are not just natural, they are semi-natural. That means that the human activities has been really important in the past to create these habitats, and now the biodiversity richness of this habitat is threatened by the change in human habits, and that is something to be really look at, and we have to, in general, attempt to preserve these semi-natural habitats too. All right, so we can move then to the next talk. Simonetta Bagella from University of Sassari. Simonetta.
Okay, yes.
All right.
Again. Moment. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your interesting presentations. Now it's my turn, and I hope that my presentation is also interesting for you. I'm Simonetta Bagella from the University of Sassari. I'm a professor of botany, and I'm also the president of the Italian Society for Vegetation Science, who is a scientific community with over 100 associated involved in vegetation studies. I work at the University of Sassari. This is a small university, but it is quite old. It was founded in 1962. It is located in northern Sardinia, not far from the sea. The sea is 10 kilometers far from my town. I work at the Department of Chemistry and Pharmacy, but I also member of an interdepartmental center, which is the Research Desertification Center, involved in study on different aspects of desertification and land degradation in the Mediterranean area. This is my team with 3 PhD students, Giovanni Riviescio, Giovanna Piga, and Noor Al-Ashi from Lebanon, and 2 postdocs, Stefania Pisano and Maria Carmela Caria. In the department, there are also other 3 professors of botany, Rossella Filighetto, Emanuele Faris, and Malvino Albani. So I'm a botanist, so my research field is general botany, but at the moment I'm involved in several projects concerning plant ecology, biodiversity conservation under different management practice and the human disturbance. Here are some ongoing projects in which I'm involved at the moment. The first one is a LIFE project, Life Regenerate, which aim is to provide solution to combat the loss of natural regeneration and soil degradation in silvopastoral areas, particularly wooded grassland in Italy, Spain, and Portugal. The second project, as named IGRAL, has the aim to set up an innovative beef cattle grazing system for the restoration of abandoned lands in Alpine and Mediterranean mountains. I'm also working to this project Biomilk China for the construction of a model for the production of milk from sheep certified according to the Chinese organic standard. And this last one, Clip-On, is a new project in which I will study the plant response to climate change in Mediterranean temporary ponds. Mediterranean temporary ponds are a typical habitat of the Mediterranean region, which are ponds with the water is present just for 2-3 months during the year. I'm also collaborate with some protected area and national parks. This is a project with the National Park Isola della Zinara for the update of the management plan of the park. Other specific experience in habitat monitoring, I collaborate to some project already presented by Daniela Gigante. She was the coordinator of this project. So they are the manual for NAX1 habitat monitoring in Italy, the European Red List of habitats, and the reporting for Annex 1 habitat. My specific role in this project concern the dune system as use case. Tomorrow I will deepen in the technical aspects related to the monitoring of this habitat, but let me say that dune systems were my first love because I started to study this system during my master degree. And for many years, I have gained experience in dune system monitoring, particularly with traditional ground surveys. Recently, I had an experience with drone. And now I'm very exciting to try with a new tool, this new approach with the animal robot. I'm very curious to know how this tool will work on the dune system. What is a dune system and how does it work? Daniela said that grasslands are very rich, species-rich habitats. Dune systems are very poor habitat in terms of number of species, because this habitat is very, very harsh and very inhospitable for plants. Dune represents a transitional system between land and water. They are characterized by a steep ecological gradients, and there is delicate balance between sand erosion and deposit. In this graph, the sequence of the condition and of different vegetation type we can find in a very, very small space are represented. We have beach and active dunes in the front, semi-stabilized dunes in the center, and stabilized dunes in the back. Along this gradient, we have in this direction an increasing of soil salinity, sand mobility, wind intensity, salt spray, wave inundation, and in general natural perturbations. And so in this part of the dune, the condition for the presence of plants is very, very difficult. And in this direction, we have an increasing of the coherence of sandy sediments and the organic matter and the nutrients. So this is a first approach to this habitat, and tomorrow I will illustrate where, when, and how to perform the monitoring on dune system. Thank you. Is there any question? No?
Thank you very much. So, Simonetta, any questions? Simonetta? All right, so 6 p.m. we came at the end of the first day of the kickoff meeting, the Natural Intelligence Project, pretty much on time, I'd say. So thank you very much to all of you for joining the team, and actually for your very interesting talks, and to keep the schedule. That's not always easy to keep this tight schedule with 13 talks in 4 hours. That has been really great. Thank you very much. I would like to conclude this day by thank several people that in this time, so starting from the proposal writing phase, setting up the communication tools, grant management, contracts, and so on. Really, a lot of people helped in this great journey that still started again today. So let me really thank Franco Angelini, Riccardo Mengacci, Carla Papa, Michele Perallini, that today took care of the YouTube live stream. That actually, so summing up the attendance that we had there, plus the attendance here, we got to more than 80 participants to this meeting. And let me thank the PO of the project, Agnes, that is here, and she just jumped up in this project after basically after the grant agreement, and she has been very kind. The chance to talk with her, and really another person that is involved in this project. And last but not least, I'm very happy to really got the chance to get these two communities, so AI and robotics research community and botany research community. I think this is a very good match, and I really hope that this project will be the start of a whole community and a whole effort towards putting technology and specifically robotics at work for the Green Deal. All right, so should you have any additional comment, I'll be happy to share thoughts or a quick discussion. If not, we can close the meeting, and we will see tomorrow morning at 9 Central Europe time here again for the second day. So thank you very much. It's been really a pleasure today. Really.
Thank you, Manolo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.